Dear Lord, today we reach out to you for guidance as we lead our fair city through the balance of this pandemic. May words from our mouths and our actions as a council, individually and collectively, be pleasing in your sight. Lord, you put us in positions to represent our constituents and to make decisions for the long-term betterment of the city of Monroe. We ask that our discussions and actions directly reflect your love for us. We thank you for listening to our prayers. Amen.
Amen.
Call this meeting to order. I'm going to try to find everybody online. We have Lee, Myosha, Norman, Nathan, Larry, Ross, and I. Let the record reflect that all members of the council are present. And did I see David?
Yeah, I'm here.
And David. Thank you, David. I need a motion for the approval of the agenda, please.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Ross Bradley. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Crawford. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Moving to the approval of the consent agenda. This is regarding the minutes from previous council meetings, historic preservation, downtown development, and such. Could I have a motion for approval, please?
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. David Dickinson. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Little. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Moving to public comment, we do have three that were submitted. First is Miss Brandy Jackson online. Miss Jackson?
You can go ahead and read.
You got it. Really
I'll go ahead and read hers. Miss Jackson is from Bridgewater Drive in Monroe. She said, I believe that this is another step in the right direction for our city, the leasing of the community building. We want to continue to grow and thrive, and these will be beneficial for the community. We want to protect our history of the city and use these older buildings so that they look and feel loved. Next, Miss Melinda Quinn, are you online? Miss Quinn lives at Dogwood Trail. She says she has been on the board of directors for the Monroe Country Day School since the planning stages. Currently, she serves as chairman of the board. The board provides financial and mission oversight to the school and have voted unanimously in favor of leasing the community center. The commitment is to provide the best possible learning environment for students while presenting opportunities for good citizenship. The building provides both and would be well maintained under our leadership. Next, Miss Mandy Wellington. Is Miss Mandy Wellington online? Miss Wellington lives at Paulette Drive. She says, I'm in favor of the Monroe Country Day School using the community center. I've found in my interactions with Rita Dickinson that she is very loyal and dedicated to her community. I think it is an asset for her to instill these same qualities in her students as she strives to lead the young hearts and minds of Monroe. I have 3 children in Monroe Country Day School. Each of my children have grown academically and personally since their time at Monroe Country Day School. I've seen them grow in their awareness of the community and their role in it. I believe the community center will help grow Monroe Country Day School in positive ways and therefore will help develop students who impact the community of Monroe in positive ways. I fully support the use of the community center by the Monroe Country Day School. And that was from Miss Mandy Wellington. Were there any comments prior to moving to the next? Hearing none, under new business, we have an application for beer and wine on-premise consumption at Bistro South. Mr. Rosenthal, is this application in order?
Mayor, I can't comment on this one. As we discussed last week, I represent John's Supermarket on a regular ongoing basis. So conflict counsel would need to be had. It's my understanding the staff has reviewed it and that it is in order.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Correct.
Is Mr. Thompson online?
No, sir, I don't see it.
Okay. So it's an application for beer and wine on-premise consumption at Bistro South, which is the new restaurant at John's Supermarket. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve by Mr. Ross Bradley. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. David Dickinson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Next, calling for a special election of District 6, Mr. Probst.
Thank you, Mayor. This request is for approval to call a special election to be held on November 3rd, 2020, concurrent with the general election to fill the unexpired term of Wayne Adcock for District 6, who passed away on April 12th. Said term will expire December 31st, 2021. We're filling this per Article 2, Section 2.08 of the City Charter. Be happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Probst? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve this call for election.
Thank you. That was Mr. Little? Yes. Yeah. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Mr. Bradley. Mr. Ross Bradley, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That will be on November 3rd. Prior to moving to the next section, Wayne was a longtime friend of the city, and a longtime friend of the council, and I appreciate Public Works and Public Safety and all the work that you did in his send-off, and the family was really pleased, and I appreciate the Baptist Church being involved and all the Bulldog Nation. And it was just a nice way to send Wayne off. Moving next, Mr. Dickinson, as we move to the election of the vice mayor, you have a motion?
I do, Mr. Mayor. I thought long and hard about a replacement for my dear friend Wayne. And at this point, I want to nominate Ross Bradley.
Thank you. I have a motion for Ross Bradley on the floor. Do I have a second? No second? Motion dies. I'll entertain a
I want to
motion.
nominate Larry Bradley for vice mayor.
I have a motion for Larry Bradley on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second by Mr. Ross Bradley. All in favor, or any discussion? I'm sorry. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Larry is the new vice mayor. Congratulations, Larry.
Thank you. I was not looking for that.
Moving to our next section. Let me check out, make sure I'm in the right area. We have the community center lease agreement, Mr. Probst.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I get into the guts of the lease, if we need to go that far again, I just kind of wanted to give some background on it, just to refresh the memory about how we kind of got here. You know, we've talked about it as a group before you as mayor and council. Council did not previously wish to sell the community building. It was duly noted in some planning sessions and some other sessions that any future tenant should complement the neighborhood, be relatively low impact, like a small boutique hotel or something of that nature. Staff has, over the past year plus, engaged with several small boutique hotel outfitters. None of that panned out. Essentially, that building was a little bit too far out of the downtown core to be viable for that use. We since let it kind of die and just continued on as a community building. Staff was then approached by the Monroe Country Day School regarding a multi-year lease on the building. The Monroe Country Day School is a nonprofit entity, and I do want to note for the abstentions that Council members Dickinson and Malcolm have been completely out of these lease negotiations. They've made it perfectly clear from the beginning that they would not engage in any talk or discussion about anything to do with the lease or Monroe Country Day School in the city. So I just wanted to make that point known. Staff, later asked if this would fit the character of the neighborhood and be a good fit for the city of Monroe going forward. And, we were authorized to bring a lease agreement back to you all today. So here we are with the lease agreement before you. And I know at the last meeting in the work session, it was brought up about the need of a future community center or type space for the public. And that is something we are all actively looking at. We have the space in the new municipal court building that we're building out right now that can be used for various meetings, small to medium-sized meetings. Probably not a party center by any means, but definitely a lot of meetings. We're also taking a hard look, running some numbers on the other side of Walton Plaza to see what it would cost to outfit that, one of those old tenant buildings, such as in the J Beauty supply store, to see what we can do there for future community building space or some sort of activity there. So we may have a little gap where we don't have something to offer the public, but we are certainly looking to fill that at some point in the future here.
Perfect. Are there any questions or comments?
And of course, the lease before you here is a 5-year lease. It goes up incrementally, $20,000 for the first year, and by years 4 and 5 is $55,000 per year.
Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move we approve.
I have a motion on the floor by Mr. Ross Bradley. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Nathan Little. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
I oppose.
So, Ms. Crawford?
Yes,
Was that
I
not-
oppose.
Okay. Motion carries 3-2. That passes. Moving to fire alarm and safety system, Mr. Bailey.
Thank you, sir. This is one of the 3 different items. I'll kind of hit all 3 maybe at once, and then we'll jump to each one, that were anticipated change orders to the Plaza PD renovation and build project. We had to get in there and essentially assess the building and the systems that were already present and then make adjustments and changes to those. The first one is for the fire alarm and safety system. This has already went before the city's fire marshal, the fire department, for approval, and they've looked at the plans and everything meets our code. And this is for Place Services to install that at an additional cost of $23,077.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Bailey? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Mayor, that we approve this contract to Place Services Incorporated in the amount of $23,077 for fire alarm and safety systems at the new police department.
Thank you for your motion, Mr. Bradley. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Ms. Malcolm. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Moving to the fire protection sprinkler system, Mr. Bailey.
Okay, and again, this is the same situation to where we had the company come in. It was actually Pi Barker that came in and did the inspections with Place Services of the existing system and to essentially upgrade what is already there to put in place the system that we need to section off different offices This was the bid that came in at $60,675 to add that additional fire protection, and then to also comply with code. And it's also been vetted and reviewed by the fire marshal's office and approved by them based on the design.
Perfect, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Bailey?
Is the 47,458 a difference in the? I'm looking for the wrong one.
You're on the next one.
Sorry
So,
about that.
yeah, no, it's fine.
Oh, yeah, never mind.
Okay.
No questions.
Are there any other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Ms. Malcolm. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ross Bradley. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the door security and entry system, Mr. Bailey.
Thank you. This will be the last one. This was one that we did not include in the original bid because we were planning on going to Badge Pass, who is also Horizon, their installers, so that we could use the same exact system that we use at City Hall and other facilities and keep everything similar and the same, so cards work at the different facilities as well as the controls. And the bid came back after they reviewed the structure, everything that's framed up and all the security points at $47,458.60.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Ross Bradley and a second by Mr.
Second.
Nathan Little. Any discussion? Hearing none, and all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes.
Thank you so much.
Moving to the Church Street landscaping, change order number 1, Mr. Probst.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, a few months ago, I believe it was March, at the council meeting, we approved the traffic calming devices, the median islands in Church Street. Part of that discussion was you wanted me to go back with engineers and see if we could raise the curbing height, which we can do, and also increase the landscaping to make it more attractive through the area, and also add some additional visual friction to complement the island medians. We were able to do that, but it does result in a change order to the entire project, totaling $66,119.26. It's a pretty robust landscaping package for the length of that project, and actually came in well under what our estimated amounts would be. And this was also vetted by some master gardeners as well.
Thank you, Mr. Probst. Are there any questions for Logan? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Dickinson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is that Larry? Yes.
Yeah.
A second by Mr. Larry Bradley. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Moving to Cedar Ridge Road, patching and resurfacing, Mr. Probst.
All right, thank you, Mayor. This came up at the last second, so I don't have an IGA with it, as we typically would do with the county, but the county just kind of wanted your approval tonight for patching and resurfacing on Cedar Ridge Road, the 1,300 feet that the city has at the end of that street. It's going to be paid from SPLOST 2019. Mr. Steele did go out there and do a full assessment to make sure we needed to do this stretch while the county was going to be doing this work. I think they're mobilizing this week. Is that right, Jeremiah?
That's correct. Could be early as the end of this week. If not this week, then they would be out there first of next week for the deep patching portion of the work.
So the total for this is just material costs, $39,539 for just the material. So the labor is paid for by the county, and according to our service delivery strategy agreement, as citizens, we're already paying into that, so they're covering the overhead and labor of it.
Thank you, Mr. Probst. Are there any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Ms. Malcolm. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Dickinson. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Moving to the Charter Belt Press. Mr. Middlebrooks.
Thank you, Mayor. As I mentioned last week, we are purchasing our own belt press for the sewer plant. We currently have one on rent from Charter. It's been there since January, I believe it was. We initially rented this thing to help with our the amount of sludge we had in the plant. Our dry beds were almost full. Due to the rain, we couldn't land apply to our sites. Now that we're starting to get some dry weather, we've been notified that we've lost one of our farms. And what happens in that situation, if we apply to a farm today, we can apply for 30 days before that guy can pull his cows or cattle over to that one so we can use this field. But when you got 3 or more fields, that's fine. I got another field to go to. In this situation, I'm down to 2 fields. I'm sitting for 30 days with nowhere to put our sludge. So Charter notified us last week that they would need to pick up the rental in early July. They had a long-term contract for it. And it's going to take 4 months to build ours. So we reached out to them. They attached the bid. The proposal was $409,648. This is the press, the polymer system, and the conveyor belt that we would use, or what Carl has designed in our rehab for the plant. So everything that we purchase here will be reused. There's nothing, no waste at all in it. If you got any questions, I'll be willing to answer those.
Thank you, Rodney. Are there any questions?
Now, tell me and maybe Beth's going to address this, how are we going to pay for this right now? What's the long-term plan? Will it roll into the big project, the cost of this?
This will be paid out of the CIP, the utility CIP, and we do have, Rodney and I discussed this earlier, we have some projects in CIP for 2020 that will not be done. For instance, the CDBG 2020 construction was set aside for 2020 budget in the utility CIP. We know that construction will not start this year, so that $500,000 could be set aside for the purchase of this. Now, the other part of that, Rodney would have to answer as he chokes.
Hey, I will note too, if we do a bond later on this year, that this money could be put into that bond package and just reimbursed out of that, should we decide to do that.
And the whole bond package and where the money's going to be used for the overall rehab project for the sewer plant. Right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Are there any other comments or questions? Thank you, Rodney. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the purchase.
Have a motion by Mr. Little. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Larry Bradley. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Pretty quick and painless tonight. Thank you, everybody. We are, just to let you know, we've been talking animal control for quite a bit. There's been a new person hired over there, so we'll continue talks with them and hopefully work on some enforcement with what we have in the works. That being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We could sit here quiet. I have a motion by Mr. Ross Bradley. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Crawford. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.